Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. We are back. Corey Perlman, David Newman, talking about what's going on with AI, how to be AI proof, and wait for it, how to be authentically social in the age of AI. So first question here in the second part of our chat, because I was thinking about this in preparation for our meeting of the minds. Do you think, or have you found a way to use AI to actually be authentically social? Is there a role for AI to play, even though you as the founder, as the CEO, as the face of the business, you need to be authentic, you need to be real, but is AI somehow, could it be leveraged towards that goal?
Yeah, I think so. I think like with everything, it's a tool. And so you can use the tool the right way or you can use it the wrong way. And so I think that the wrong way is using AI as a substitute for your content or your expertise and leveraging it that way. That's inauthentic. And I think the authentic way is to use it as a first draft. People call it an intern, whatever you want to call it, but it's a starting point. And making sure that you are putting in your perspective, your unique perspective. You're taking the time to review it, edit it, make it your own, and use it that way. I believe that that's still falling under the category of authentic, and that's the right way to do it.
Let's say people have a blog, right? A business has a blog, a business owner has a personal blog. There's blog posts, there's articles, there's LinkedIn posts, and maybe these date back from pre-AI, before November of 2022, when the entire world got shaken, stirred, turned upside down. We load all of that up into our favorite AI tool. Let's say it's ChatGPT. Then we start using the tool as a brainstorming tool. Tell me the difference between, hey, let's brainstorm some ideas, hey, extract a couple of philosophies, rants, points of view, versus based on all of this content that is my content, my voice, my tone, my attitude, write me a LinkedIn post that talks about topic X. Copy, paste, throw that on LinkedIn. It's sort of authentic, but it's sort of AI. Where do you draw the line on that? Or where would you like people to kind of literally draw the line and say, okay, this part is cool, but then you got to take it in a different direction. So first of all, is that authentic, or are we kind of fudging it?
The first one or the second one, are you asking? Or both?
If we load up a whole bunch of stuff and then say, write me a LinkedIn article, copy, paste, post.
That's a tough question. I think that it is authentic because it's your stuff. I would still be careful, and I would not encourage people to do that because AI can get it wrong. And so there should always, I look at AI at this point, generative AI, what the cool thing about that is it's starting from scratch. It's like if you put in the same thing I put in, we're going to get different results. That's really neat. It creates context, all these things. But because it does that, there's a chance of error, or there's a chance of putting something together, or whatever the case may be. So I look at it as a tiny little sweet little baby intern, right? Fresh out of college, go-getter, full of energy, very smart, but can make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So we should always treat AI with kid gloves and monitor everything it does, even if it's our content that it's producing, so that we can make sure that when it goes out on whatever media or medium that we decide to put it out on, that we feel like it's still our authentic brand and that it came through our brains before going out on our computers.
Yes, absolutely.
That's my belief on that.
It's funny. AI, well, I think as we're recording this in the back half of 2025, people say AI, oh man, it's such a danger, it's such a threat because all that stuff is instant, perfect, and free. Forget about 20 bucks a month, but instant, perfect, and basically free once you've paid your 20 bucks a month. It's perfect unless you care about facts, mathematics, or the actual reality that we live in. So it still doesn't get math right. So for example, I was brainstorming with AI, which I do almost every day. I'm sure you do too. And I said, okay, I have a client, and his question was, how do I break through $1 million? And also he's working too hard and whatever. So I said, okay, give me some business models that are scalable that would get this guy to $1 million. So it says, okay, you've got 5 people paying you $200,000, these big consulting contracts. That's option number 1. It says 10 clients at $100,000, or you could sell, it was 200 copies of a digital course for $2,000. And I'm looking at this going, well, hold on. 200 times 2,000 is 400,000. It is not $1 million. And I'm literally saying it's simple, right? It's like, give me some business models where this person could make $1 million. How about selling 200 things for $2,000? No, still got the math wrong. So when we say copy, paste, send, I think that is the most dangerous thing you can do. Forget about editing, humanizing, tweaking. It gets facts wrong. It gets math wrong. I will say, in the early days of Google, people would say, and they still say it today, Google yourself. Well, now it's like AI yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Go into ChatGPT. Tell me all about marketing expert David Newman. It will get 90% of it right. And it will say, he wrote these 3 books, book number 1, book number 2, and the advanced marketing handbook for whatever. It's like, I never wrote anything called the advanced marketing handbook for whatever. I go on Amazon. I see, is there even a book called the advanced marketing guide to whatever? There isn't. It's purely fictionalized. So it's like, you still got to be very, very, very careful.
Yes. Errors and omissions, man. Like, there's no doubt you've got to check it. And you mentioned something, I feel like, as we were ending our last talk about prompts. And I think that really dictates whether or not you're going to get authentic and accurate information. If you shortchange your prompts, you get what you give, kind of thing. The output is what you input. And so if you are broad, or you don't give it the proper interview or some of the homework it needs to give you the answers you're looking for, then there's a better chance for it to be inauthentic and inaccurate, I would say.
Yes. You know what's fun? And I think a lot of people still don't use AI tools this way. It's go interactive. In other words, having a Q&A back and forth. So for example, the prompt might be something like, act like a entrepreneurial journalist, and you're interviewing me for a feature story in a publication. Ask me questions about my backstory, my business philosophy, who I work with, what problems I solve, and why I'm inspired to do the work that I'm doing. And then you say, ask me one question at a time and wait for my input. ChatGPT, perfectly happy to do that. Do this on your phone. You can do it just all audio, right? And it will literally say, well, Corey Perlman, please tell me a little bit about your professional background. And then you talk. That is all transcribed as you talk. You finish that statement. Next question. I'm really curious, what problem are you solving at Impact Social Media? And so now you're creating, it's almost like having a journalist or an interviewer in your pocket on demand. And people say, well, I'm not good at creating content, but if you interview me, I'm happy to answer questions and just throw things out there. Do you see that as a viable way to really harness the power of AI to be more authentic?
Yes, for 2 reasons. One is you can get great content out of yourself. Oh, I just got balloons just came up. That was interesting. Don't know why that happened. But you can, some great content can come out of that. A, and B, you are allowing ChatGPT to properly interview you so it has the context and the background to give you future results that you're looking for. The more that you can give context and content to AI, the better the results can be. And so I think that that's a great use of it. And before we ever, if we're working with a new client, let's say, or we're doing some homework on a client, we always take the time to do that interview process with ChatGPT prior to asking it anything. And therefore we get better results. So I think that's just that's a fair thing to do for ChatGPT to give you the results that you want.
Hold on. This one is so good, even I'm taking notes. Listen, are you a CEO, founder, or corporate executive ready to fix your market obscurity problem and gain the market eminence you know you and your company deserve? Cool. Book your private Market Eminence Roadmap call with me, and let's see what might be possible for you. The link is simple. doitmarketing.com/call. See you over there. Now, I gotta get back to taking more notes. I think also last time we started going down the path of video and podcasting, because that is human conversation, human voice, human face, humanizes the brand, humanizes the founder, the expert, the CEO. What have you found with video these days, whether it's Reels or Shorts or YouTube or Instagram or just putting video out there in all different formats, LinkedIn, Facebook? What's kind of the update on video best practices?
I would say, depending on the platform, but a lot of our colleagues are really focused on LinkedIn right now. And just as of 2025, midway through, just as a little context to this part of our conversation, we just purchased a report from Richard Vandenbloem, I think is his name. And the study basically validated that video is the driving force behind the growth of LinkedIn right now. The majority of engagement and all these different details come around the focus on video. So I think that for people who are listening to us right now, if you haven't doubled down on video on LinkedIn, now's the time to do so. And they're finding a lot of the similar formats from the other platforms. Vertical is better than horizontal, generally speaking. Shorter is better, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, that kind of thing. The intention span, I would say, is a little bit longer on LinkedIn than the other platforms. So you can go a little bit longer and keep people because they're there for different reasons. Less entertainment, more education, I would say. But you still need to get to the point super, super quickly.
Yeah.
And the structure is similar to the other platforms where we talk about don't bury the lead. So tell them what they're going to get or ask that provocative question right off the bat because people will swipe by you in a matter of seconds. So you got to hit them quick and you got to hit them early. And gone are the days of saying, welcome to this podcast. My name is David Newman. And for the last, all that is gone. And instead of these are the 3 things you have to know in order to be effective at sales in 2025 and beyond.
Yes.
And then you deliver that content. So those are some of the video insights that we're seeing right now on LinkedIn and other platforms as well.
So people are looking at these videos and they're like, oh my God, this person has a beautiful house. Oh my goodness, this person's on vacation in Switzerland and they have the Swiss Alps are in the background. I saw some of your videos where you're walking through Vegas. And what do you say to the person that says, Corey, I don't go to cool places. I don't have an amazing $5 million mansion. I'm just the guy sitting here in my boring vanilla office. How should they be shooting the videos, or does the setting not really matter that much?
I think that one of the best practices that we share often is don't think about creating, think about capturing instead. So I would say to that individual, what's happening in the next week or 2 weeks or month that is capture worthy? So you might not be heading to Vegas, you might not be in the Swiss Alps, but you might be having a brainstorming meeting with your team, or you might be going on a retreat, or You might even be taking a walk in the woods or something to that effect, that you could pull out the camera real quickly and shoot some B-roll footage, or do a quick selfie video, or even shoot outward and shoot, the mountaintops or whatever you want. And then there's opportunities to do some video with that elsewhere. So in the world of efficiency that we're all so busy, and I hate to make people leave these conversations and say, well, they told me I have to create 3 new videos next week, and that's a lot of work. Instead, I want them to think about, what am I already doing that I can capture, instead of having to create new stuff. And everyone, David, has something that they can capture.
What's your favorite? Do you have like a favorite video app, video capture app? I mean, obviously you can just shoot a straight video on your phone, but there's now all these different apps that do instant subtitling and maybe some, other fancy transitions and whatnot. Do you have a favorite iPhone app, for example?
I do, but the one that we've been hearing about, and my wife actually has been talking a lot about recently, is Instagram's created their own app called Edits, I think. And essentially it's their way of competing against CapCut, I think, and to allow you to save and create drafts of reels easier, and have all the functionality that a lot of these other third-party tools have within the walls of Instagram. So if you're really kind of getting to the next level of creating reels on a consistent basis, I would recommend downloading Edits and playing with that tool is one that I can think of off the top of my head.
And you can export then. It doesn't have to just stay on Instagram. You can export the file and use it on YouTube and so on.
I think so, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah.
I need to phone a friend and ask her that question.
Exactly.
What about you?
Nice.
Any fun tools that you're using?
I am just using my basic camera, turn it on video like this. And then I'm primitive. I'm like sad. Although Clips on Apple, you have the OG, right? Automatic captioning. You can have a couple different styles, and that turns out pretty nice.
I've always liked Clips. I've used that, and the other one that just popped into my head just for caption's sake is rev.com. That's always been a favorite of mine. A lot of times the native platforms like LinkedIn will create captions for you, but they're very boring.
Yeah.
They're just sort of like, the basic captions. And so again, if we're looking for ways to try to stand above our competition and break through the noise, using maybe some higher quality, fun, bold text for your captions, and on rev.com, you can do that. You can also do that, of course, when you're in Instagram and such. But let me just shift the conversation for a second back, to something I want to ask you about, which is when you're talking to clients about their brands and how to, kind of get ahead of their competition. We talked a lot about how ChatGPT could be thought of as a threat. But what are some things that you tell people from a marketing aspect, and some of the things that, frankly, you do yourself, David, that allows the world to see more uniquely you, and that kind of brings your perspective and all these different things out that maybe written material can't do as well?
Sure. So I have gotten lately into the habit of what I call jamming with AI. So I will load up some resource, slide deck, book chapter, whatever, and I was literally riff. And so the prompts are things like, what are some traditional beliefs or practices that this content goes against? Right? What would people need to believe before they're ready to hear this kind of message, right? So how can I lay the groundwork so I don't just splash people in the face with cold water, but I sort of guide them to a whole new way of thinking? As the responses come back, rather, from the prompts, I go, wow, like point number 2, that's really interesting. So I will then riff on that and say, hey, let's talk more. And so what I will sometimes say in the initial prompt is, I want to throw some ideas around with you. I want to have a jam session around the concept of a market leader always has influence in their industry, right? Very big, broad topic. And I might upload my book chapter on that, or a slide deck from a presentation I just did. And so now it has a little bit of context, a little bit of assets. And I will say, okay, what's in this content that I as the author might not see or recognize as valuable? And it's like, oh, and all kinds of good stuff comes back from that one. What embedded philosophies or inner bumper stickers could you extract from this content? And now I have, I could make a meme, I could make a little infographic based on that. So it literally gives me idea starters. It helps me to generate more and better ideas and different ideas than I can see just doing it. Here's the world according to David Newman, using Chat GPT almost as a reflection or an amplifier or a lens through which I go, there's something in here that, I like it. I love it because I wrote it and I think it. But there's stuff in here I'm probably not seeing, or there's implications for my clients or my audience that perhaps needs to be put a little bit more in your face, a little bit more contrarian, a little bit more dynamic. Give me 5 examples of how people get concept A wrong, right? Give me 5 more examples of how people get concept A right. Apply this. Let's say that we're going to speak to a bunch of travel experts. I know that you have a big client that always brings you into the mega travel conferences. How would this apply to a travel professional specializing in luxury cruises? And it's like, oh, well, boom. But and again, let's say you get 5 of those. 3 will be so-so, 1 will be good, and 1 will be amazing. Mm-hmm. So the way I like to look at AI as a tool, it's almost like photography. How do you get a really beautiful, amazing photo? Take a lot of photos. 80% will be crap, 10% will be good, 10% will be awesome. Just use the 10% that's awesome.
Love it. So a word that I love that you said that I use in ChatGPT a lot is contrarian, or we'll use provocative, we'll use controversial, bold. So a lot of times the stuff that we're coming out with, it's great stuff, but it might sound just like, still sounds a little generic, or it's just not kind of hitting that. And you can bring it to ChatGPT. The point is still the same, but they're packaging it a little bit differently, or they're just turning up the knob on boldness or contrarian or provocative, whatever that word is. And a lot of times it's still your thought, but it's through the lens of ChatGPT. 2 things I wanted to say real quick. And again, that like this whole overarching conversation is around AI proofing your business. So even though we're talking about the best ways to use AI, a couple things I'd love for people to take away from this is, 1, what you just said is creating sound bites. We call them numinisms in your world.
Yes.
And being honest, to share those with the world so that like it starts to, that credibility knob, like when people start seeing your stuff written down elsewhere, the credibility goes up. I think about a situation. I was just at a summit and I looked down at somebody's notes and he had written down a quote that another person in the room said. And I think that like that's a level of credibility, that's an echelon of credibility that you want to get to. And a lot of our favorite on-demand speakers or consultants or coaches, they're quotable. And that's something that our friends that are using ChatGPT and are just trying to, create new content may not be able to do as well. So building those quotable, if you will, pieces, numinisms in your world helps AI proof yourself, I would say.
Yes.
The second thing I would say that comes to mind, and why we do a lot of these interviews and podcasts and media requests, is another thing that I think buyers will go out and look for is, where have we said some of this stuff? And that's another way to AI proof yourself. Again, I'm thinking about this random Joe Schmo guy who spent the last 24 hours trying to create content in social media world versus me. How do I differentiate myself versus ChatGPT guy and 15 and a half years of experience in this? Part of it is all the different news shows I've been on, all the different podcasts I've been on, all the different media requests I've had. Those are the things that I need to show on social. You need to show on social to show people that we've been here, done that for a long time versus the new guy. What are your thoughts to that?
By the way, the equivalent in your world of numinisms is Perlman pearls.
Nice.
Did you know this? The
I didn't
Perlman
know that.
pearls. You're just dropping these pearls of wisdom all over the place.
Yes.
I do think that there needs to be overwhelming third-party social proof. I can say I'm awesome and amazing. You can say you're awesome and amazing, and probably AI guy from the last 24 hours, he's definitely telling the world how awesome and amazing he is. But when your local ABC affiliate says so, when Huffington Post says so, when Forbes.com says so, when Entrepreneur Magazine says so, when the New York Times says so, when the Wall Street Journal says so, that I think still has weight. It probably has more weight now than it did 3 years ago. Because so far, to the best of my knowledge, AI has not been directly quoted by any content experts. Like, well, according to AI, where
Right.
social media is going is, it's like no one's quoting AI. They're still quoting humans.
Right.
And I think that third-party proof, and maybe especially being on other people's podcasts, other people's TV shows, other people's YouTube channels, the more that you can spread the word, it's like it's not a credibility filter, it's a validation filter, right? If you're good enough to be, you qualify, you've gone through the vetting process of your local ABC TV affiliate. If you've gone through the vetting process of being on Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee Dumas, if big, huge podcasts, big audience, YouTube channels, lots of subscribers, lots of views. I don't want to say it's a numbers game, but it absolutely is a credibility and a visibility game. If you're the only one that's saying that, hey, I'm so awesome, and this is what makes me nuts, by the way. So as you know, my thing is Market Eminence. I go on to Amazon and I see all of these different books about how to be a celebrity and get millions of followers, 17 reviews. How to become incredibly well known and super famous, 3 reviews. I'm sorry, 3 ratings, 1 review. 3 star ratings, 1 written review. There's a huge credibility gap. Yes. It's like, first of all, you may have written that book with AI. Second of all, you have no following, you have no credibility, you're basically blowing in the wind. So I think now more than ever, cross-pollinating with other media sources, local, regional, online, offline, TV, radio, blog, podcast, YouTube channel, traditional TV, traditional radio, satellite radio, whatever it is that you can get into. You don't need to have a lot of it, but man, you better have some. You better have something going on that says you are not the only person who thinks you're awesome.
Yep. What you just said, I just want to reiterate it real quick. I've always screamed social proof as one of the buckets of your social media marketing or your professional personal brand. To your point, I think it's more important today than ever before because there's so much competition, because ChatGPT and AI is making it so easy for subject matter experts to come out of the woodwork. Well, I want to give a plug real quick, David, and I'd love for you to riff on this a second too. In our industry, another thing that I think comes to the surface that will AI proof us is designations. And so in our industry, there's a designation called the CSP. That's in the speaking world, Certified Speaking Professional. And in order to get this designation, there's a lot of work that has to go into it. It's blood, sweat, and tears. Those of us who have gone through it have nightmares over it. And that's a good thing. They really put a rigorous framework together that make you jump through lots of different hoops in order to get this designation. And what it's supposed to do is to show meeting planners out there quickly that they're working with somebody that this isn't their first rodeo, this is their business, this is their livelihood, and chances are you're going to get a really quality speaker out of it. That's what the CSP means. And so that's in our world, and there's lots of other worlds that designations come into play. Do you feel like that's another way to AI proof ourselves in this world?
Very much so. Very much so. But I think the key, because there's a lot of fake designations out there also, sure, unfortunately. So now there's certified expert of experts, like certified virtual presenters. Like, oh, whoa. But I think if people do just 5 minutes of research into who is the awarding body of that designation? So, like you said, our certified speaking professional that you have and that I have comes from the National Speakers Association, which is the leading, if not the only, trade and professional association of experts who speak professionally. So, genuine, authentic, to borrow a word, authentically relevant, credible certifying body. The criteria, I agree with you. I'm glad that it's difficult to qualify for the certified speaking professional designation. It's something like 10 years of speaking, 25 personal recommendations from past clients. You submit a video for peer review. You have to have a certain level of professionalism, certain number of engagements, certain level of revenue from those engagements. It is very, very thorough. And it's a giant pain in the butt to put all the paperwork and all the tracking together. But, these fake designations, it's just another way that people are shortcutting or trying to fake it and say, well, you have a CSP, Corey, but I have a VSPLJ73. And so I'm just as good as a CSP. It's like, no, dude, you're not. You're not. Right. And what I love is that in the meetings industry and the association industry, right, we have the CMP for the meeting planners, the meeting professionals, used to be, but now meeting professional. So we have a certified meeting professional and we have a certified association executive. So at least for those professions, when they say, oh, here's someone that can come speak to our group, here's someone that can come into our convention or our meeting, if they have a professional designation from their official certifying body, they're much more likely to take our designation seriously as a sign of quality and a sign of minimizing their risk in hiring us. Yes. And by the way, this, I think everything we're talking about, being AI proof, being authentically social, building market eminence, the entire goal of this, the entire result of the result is when people are considering doing business with you, it lowers the risk. Yes. It makes you not only a smart choice and a good choice, it makes you the safest choice. Mm-hmm. And people are so afraid of getting burned by another bad digital marketing agency, another bad speaker, another bad marketing consulting firm, another bad, whatever. The social proof piece, including certifications, designations, client testimonials, being on these big media platforms occasionally, it is a risk reversal buyer safety mechanism that they now feel safe in reaching out to you, connecting with you, and having a sales conversation.
I could completely agree with you. They're mitigating risk, and at least in the world of speakers, as you know, probably one of their biggest initiatives of every year is their conference. And for them to miss the mark on that is a huge dent in their overall job. Yeah. So that's so important for them to pick the right person and the right people for the job.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there. Do you think, both in the speaking industry and maybe in the professional services world, in the social media world, if we don't have something that talks about AI, right? It's like, oh, I don't see AI anywhere on your website. I don't see AI anywhere in your program description. You are talking about AI like you are AI savvy, right? Because our people are really hungry for some of this AI stuff. Is there a risk in not talking about and not mentioning AI when we talk about our professional work?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I think that, I can only speak in that particular case on my own perspective, and both as a speaker and then as a social media agency, that if I didn't have it included and it wasn't something that we were on top of, I feel like we'd be not only behind the eight ball, but also perceived as being behind. So at least in my industry, I would say, yes, it's something that I knew early on that we needed to be early adopters on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say the same, or?
I would say the same. I mean, obviously, you and I are solving this problem right now with this series because all we're talking about is AI and how to, the context and the reality that AI has put us in as professionals who want to do great work for great clients. But yeah, and I think there needs to be a couple of layers to it. Number one, I think we need to communicate how and when and why we use AI, because I just openly admitted to millions of people that I use AI daily for brainstorming and content ideas and so on. But I also think people are genuinely hungry to find out about what's going on with AI. Not that we all need to become overnight AI experts, that's not the point, but to be AI savvy and AI conversant. So if someone says, well, Corey, how is AI impacting LinkedIn? Is there a lot of just AI spam bot generated action on LinkedIn, especially with the messaging? Like all the messages I get, I guarantee you 90% of them are now AI generated and some automation is happening. Hey, David, I see you run an agency. I don't. And I see you work with, big Fortune 100 clients. I don't. And, you might need some, advanced CRM automation software. I don't. But you send that message to 1 million people, a few of them will. A few of them will. But not me. And now you've lost all credibility with me because number one, you're a bot. And number two, you know nothing about my business. So even if I should have a legitimate need, or I should have a legitimate need to refer someone, right, that company is now totally off my radar. I will never refer them for anything because they AI spammed me.
If I had to summarize both of these conversations, I feel like I would say with AI, use it, but don't abuse it. So we have talked about many ways to use it. Both of us are super pro AI. And so I think a percentage of this conversation is about how to use it effectively. So it goes without saying that both of us use it and want to continue to use it moving forward. My team uses it. We could talk all day about the uses of it. The other side of the coin, and as we go forth, I want to kind of talk on both angles, kind of out of both sides of my mouth, how to use it effectively, but how not to abuse it. And how to be very careful with it. And I do believe, and I will kind of wrap up this conversation, at least from my perspective, as if we're not careful, there goes the fireworks. I don't know what my hands,
it must be the grand finale, finale of the fireworks. Here
really
it is.
Really interesting on whether this is picking up this AI part of Zoom. But if we're not careful, our entire content can look like AI and can be easily duplicated.
Yeah.
And so what I want to convey to this audience is to be careful with that. And how to combat that is, as we talked about, video, bringing your full self to your social media presence, showing some of the behind the scenes, showing your value, not just in written work, but over video. We talked about some of your credentials. We talked about social proof, but giving that full story for people online that they can quickly see this is not your first rodeo. This is not something that you started yesterday, but this has been a path, a journey that you've been on, and that you need to show that journey on your personal and professional brand. And that will keep you AI safe and AI proof.
I think what I hear you saying is humanize,
Yes.
humanize, humanize, humanize. For the last 10 years, I think everything in business, especially small business, entrepreneurial businesses that are looking to grow and scale, the magic word was automate, 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 right? Delegate and automate, automate and delegate. You can automate what you can't delegate and delegate what you can't automate. Now I think the key verb is humanize, and humanize in ways that are authentic, valuable to your audience, and truly unique to you and your personality, who you are, what you do, what you believe, how you see the world. And my final piece of little encouragement here, and we can dig more into this if we do another one of these, don't be afraid to piss some people off.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. The more that you're for some things, be clear on what you're against. Be clear on what you will not tolerate. Be clear on who you would not do business with. Be clear on what kind of projects are in your sweet spot and what kind of things you would never touch with a 10-foot pole. Because if you kind of play the middle of the road game, number one, you're not being authentic, because that's not really true. There are obviously places where you and your company do brilliant work, and there's also places and projects and clients where you would not want to get involved in that. But be a little polarizing, be a little bit contrarian, be a little bit divisive. And when I say divisive, I don't mean hurtful or political or any of those things. Divisive meaning divide the world into people that you're with and people that you're not with, people that you're for and people that you're not for, projects, people, ideas, concepts, technologies, practices, whatever it is. And the more that you humanize, the more that you will magnetically and powerfully attract the right clients, the right partners, the right channel partners, the right talent, the right investors, the right acquirers, if you want your company to be bought. Nobody buys vanilla. And I would just encourage people as we wrap up here, don't be vanilla. Vanilla's a tough place to dominate from.
I don't like it generally as an ice cream flavor, and I definitely don't like it as a content strategy. So
there you go. And with those fireworks, we will wrap it up for now. You want to do another one of these at some point?
I would love to. Yeah. For those of you who are not watching, I randomly throughout this episode, I've had some crazy Zoom animations coming from behind me. So that's what's
fireworks, balloons, all kinds of stuff.
Thumbs up. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm still getting used to all that. But no, I'm enjoying these conversations, David. And the thing I'll just say on the topic you just mentioned is we're really pushing our clients on unpopular opinion. So if you notice any of our clients, you'll see a lot of their we're challenging them to be bold and to talk about things that may not be the status quo. And that's what you got to do to get above the noise. And so maybe we'll talk about that more in our next episode.
There's another Perlman Pearl right there, buddy. All right. Until next time, I will see you soon.
Take care, everybody.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.